Welcome back to part 2. First we have Blight Beetle. This seems like a very clear hoser against the whole exploration package, like explore package. We have a 2-cost 1/1 with protection from green, which obviously blocks the explore creatures really well and also kills the explore creatures but not Wild Growth Walker. And then it prevents counters from being put on the explore creatures and on Wild Growth Walker, making the card much more manageable. But yeah, still quite small and low impact otherwise, so not sure how playable this card is going to be. It could be an okay sideboard card for very specific situations, but even as a sideboard card, it might just be a bit too narrow and in the end doesn't pan out that well. In limited, it seems like an okay sideboard card against like green heavy opponents. Next we have Blood for Bones. This is kind of interesting in the sense that we didn't have 4-cost reanimation spells for a while. This one makes you go through a couple of hoops, like having another creature in play, but then you can get that creature back to your hand or another one. So it doesn't really cost you an extra resource, it just costs you some extra tempo basically to try and balance the card out. We have just talked about a pretty strong, big reanimation target in the 8-cost demon, so that could be an interesting thing to attempt in standard. Not sure how good it's going to be and how relevant, especially in a world full of like planeswalkers and like baby Teferis bouncing it to your hand and stuff. So it's probably going to have a hard time for now. But always something cool and interesting to try and mess around with. Not very great and limited, I think. Next we have Bloodsoaked Ulta. This card seems pretty bad, the fact that it costs you a creature and a card and life, and all you get is a 5/5, and it only works as a sorcery. The Ulta itself costs 6. So yeah, you kind of 2-for-1 yourself and take some damage, and even like invest mana indirectly because you sack a creature which costs you mana and so on. So the card seems pretty bad in any format really. Next we have Bloodthirsty Aerialist. First of all, great limited card, really powerful. And even in Constructed, this seems like it could be a good enough 3-drop for a Vampire Constructed deck. I'm not fully clear on all the options that Vampires have on 3 right now off the top of my head, but this seems quite strong and could easily make it. Like 3-cost, 2/3 flying is a bit weak for Constructed obviously, but given that there will probably be some ways of gaining life, like Zorin's +1 ability, this seems like it could be a really powerful evasive Vampire threat in Constructed. Next we have Disfigure back again. Pretty great. I mean, Disfigure is an amazing card, and it's good almost all the time that it's legal, and I think it's gonna replace Moment of Craving nicely, especially once it rotates out, but even before, I feel like costing 1 is worth a lot more, even against mono red, than costing 2 and gaining you 2 life. So yeah, great addition to standard, and also great limited card. A better shock basically in limited, because dealing damage in this format to planeswalkers or players is not that relevant, but being able to also use this as a combo trick against bigger targets is amazing. Then we have Gravedigger, not much to say here. Probably not relevant to Constructed, but an amazing limited uncommon as always. Then we have Gruesome Scourge. Not that exciting, clearly not a Constructed card, and a limited dealing damage equal to a number of creatures you control to the opponent or planeswalker isn't that great, since there won't be that many planeswalkers in this limited format, and the damage to face is like not doing that much. So yeah, pretty meh, I think. Next we have Noxious Grasp, which is the color hoser in black. It targets green or white creatures or planeswalkers and you gain 1 life. It costs 2, it's an instant. It's pretty powerful, especially given that it's a 2-cost answer to both Teferis among others, which is super powerful, and to Nissa. So yeah, this card is really well positioned. Some of the best planeswalkers are white or green, so that is pretty powerful. Yeah, 2-cost instant, super flexible, amazing sideboard card for any black deck really. Next we have Thought Distortion. The card seems pretty bad and expensive for what it wants to do, even in like a kind of against like controlling slow decks. This doesn't seem great. Maybe it's like an okay option in like small numbers as like a one-off or something in a sideboard, but it seems really expensive, and depending on how the game goes, even your control opponent won't have that many cards left in their hand that will be hit by this and all. So the fact that it can't be countered does only so much, especially currently in a world where there aren't many counters. So yeah, not too impressed by this card, and unplayable and limited, I think. And last but not least for part 2, we have Undead Servant. The 4-cost 3/2, nothing exciting, and when it enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 black zombie token for each card named Undead Servant in your graveyard. So in limited, if you get to draft multiples of these, they become better, but the first copy is pretty weak. It's basically a 3-cost creature that costs 4, and not even a good 3-cost creature, so that's pretty underwhelming. So not sure how worthwhile it is to just draft multiples of these and hope to make up for the copies. But yeah, if you can get a lot of them, they can be really powerful, but if you only get like 3 of them or something, I don't think they even seem particularly worth it, but I could be wrong. And in constructed, they are obviously unplayable. Alright, that's it for the second part of the black cards. I'll see you in a moment with part 3. Stay tuned.